Hello and welcome to Perth. My name's Richard Offen. I'm the Executive Director of Heritage Perth. The Perth we know today is vastly different from the Perth of the time that Senses Australia was founded. In 2015, it's an international city of great significance. Now, there's been habitation on this area we now call Perth for at least 40,000 years. But for most of that time, there was very little evidence of human occupation because the Aboriginal people lived within the landscape rather than on it, and they didn't make any architectural statements whatsoever. That all changed in 1829 when the British started the Swan River colony on the River Swan. From that time on, a very modest market town was built up on the edge of Perth water. And it was not until the 1890s that the city began to change out of all recognition. Because in that decade, gold was discovered, not only out at Coolgardie, but also up in the Murchison. And that changed the nature of Perth forever, because it went from a relatively poor market town to a rich mineral city. The city changed its character completely. From these low, modest brick-built buildings, magnificent structures like His Majesty's Theatre and the McNess Royal Arcade came into being, and the whole character of the town changed. In the 1890s, as a result of the gold boom, many influential people moved to Perth, and they wanted to use some of their newfound wealth for the betterment of society. And in 1895, a group of influential people here in Perth formed the West Australian Home Teaching Society for the Blind. This very soon changed its name, in fact a year later, to the West Australian School for the Blind. And that continued in 1898 to the Victorian Institute and Industrial School for the Blind. That was the name they settled on for a longer period, and it was in 1932 that the West Australian Institute and Industrial School for the Blind, Inc., was founded. And it was in 1967 that the organisation changed its name to the Royal West Australian Institute for the Blind. During the 1960s, parts of older Perth began to change. Buildings were demolished to make way for the first of the high-rise buildings, and the Narrows Bridge was constructed with the first 3 kilometres of freeway. In 2001, the Royal WA Institute for the Blind and the WA Deafblind Association amalgamated to the Senses Foundation. On the 1st of July 2013, the name became Senses Australia, and we welcome you to their AGM.